Welcome to another week in motorsport. Some people may be saying that the Formula One World Championship is all but over, now that Sebastian Vettel is 77 points ahead of his closest rivals after only 8 rounds. There are still 275 points on the table, and we've got the British Grand Prix to look forward to this weekend. Damien, I mean, for a British magazine, this is obviously one of the biggest races of the year, isn't it? And it looks set to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, I always look forward to the British Grand Prix, and it's always a good time of year. This year, yeah, championship battle isn't exactly keeping us on the edge of our seats, but we can be sure for a good Grand Prix. I think given the way the DRS has worked out this year and the Pirelli tyres, etc., it's going to suit Silverstone. So we'll see some overtaking, and it should be a good race, come rain or shine. Yeah,
well, better than Valencia, I think.
Can't be worse, can it? Really? No. Didn't enjoy that one very much.
No, I've yet to meet anyone who did, but yeah, it certainly wasn't the most exciting. But there's obviously the big talking point this year, the new pit and paddock complex at Silverstone. As far as I can see, they've done an amazing job, and surely that's got to be pretty satisfying for everyone involved in the circuit.
It's a big deal for the circuit, big deal for Silverstone. For us, as in the media, it obviously means a new place to watch the race from and new paddock to work. I think for the spectators, it doesn't mean a great deal apart from a different start-finish area. Yeah. I think the first corner will be interesting because it's more or less a flat-out right-hander with the former Abbey, which now turns right instead of left. So that'll be interesting through there. Very short run into that first corner, as Karen Chandok was telling us on the podcast last week. So that'll be interesting, and then they'll all bunch themselves up for the twiddly stuff in the new section.
It certainly does look like an exciting circuit. I mean, I haven't actually driven the new layout, but I mean, how long do you think it actually takes these drivers to learn something? Obviously, they're doing simulator work, you know, for a while beforehand, but you know, with these new circuits on the track, does it take them long to learn them?
Most of them always say 6, 7, 8 laps max. It doesn't take long at all, really. For a circuit like Silverstone, yes, they've done simulator work. Most of them will have driven it last year in the Grand Prix. So someone like Paul Di Resta, a rookie, a British rookie, making his Formula One debut at Silverstone, special occasion for him. He won't have done, but he won't have any problems learning the track. It's just not an issue these days.
And moving on slightly from a British circuit to a British team, the big news to come out from Williams recently is they're switching from Cosworth engines to Renault. They're saying that this doesn't guarantee performance for them, but obviously in their minds it's a step forward because they clearly weren't getting on too well with the Cosworth engines. Yeah,
Deal announced this week that they're going back to Renault engines as of next year, so obviously a big deal for them for 2012 and 2013, with an option for 2014 when we're supposed to be getting these new V6 engines that are coming in. So good news for them. It's good for them to have a manufacturer tie-in. I think we shouldn't read too much into it. The angle on the past, obviously they've got a very successful history with Renault, is kind of irrelevant, really. And Renault have provided the engine that won the World Championship last year, Red Bull, so we know it's a good engine. But I don't think there's any suggestion that Cosworth is at fault for Williams not being where it should be this year. There's a whole number of factors.
Yeah, well, they had the huge reshuffle, didn't they? That clearly there are other things.
Yeah, it's still ongoing. We still don't really know the shape of the technical department for Williams next year. So this is an integral part of it, but it is a part of it, and they've got a long way to go to get back to the glory days of Williams Renault in the 1990s.
Yeah, well, we'd all love to see that.
Yeah, but the thing I'm looking forward to this weekend is to see where we stand with this engine mapping situation. Yep. First race where cold-blown diffusers are banned, cold-blown exhausts are banned. Sorry. So it'll be interesting to see how much effect it has on Red Bull. My suspicion.
Sorry, you'll get there eventually.
Is that we'll still see Sebastian Vettel probably taking pole position on Saturday afternoon. I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor this weekend.
No, exactly. I mean, obviously it was worked into the cars and things like that. But these guys are the best minds in the country, aren't they? And around the world in Formula One. I really don't think there's going to be a huge shake-up in the order. I mean, one thing I did think from Valencia was that McLaren, I mean, Ferrari seemed to slightly overtaken McLaren on sort of race pace and things. And McLaren has always been the king of mid-season development, but it's always just never, it hasn't quite been there this year, has it?
I think we shouldn't read too much into Valencia. I think race to race, a car might not work better on its tyres in a certain circuit. I think that's what we saw in Valencia. Come Silverstone, it could be a different story again. I think that both drivers were frustrated afterwards and made comments basically on the lines of McLaren need to do something fast to pick up the pace. Everyone at McLaren is...
It's not like they're sitting...
No, they're not sitting on their hands, are they?
Sitting on their hands
I think Jensen made a good point about pushing more upgrades through, so I'm sure that's been taken note. But there's a certain amount of tension within that team now. That's certainly been created from the guy in the yellow crash helmet.
Do you think that's going to affect them at all? I mean, we've always thought that Jensen and Lewis, well, last year, they were sort of great mates and everything like this. And are there a few fractures in that relationship now, or is Jensen above all that kind of stuff?
I don't think so. I haven't seen anything to suggest that Lewis and Jensen are going to be at a war with each other anytime soon. I mean, last week there was a function in just off Oxford Street where they'd basically Jensen and Lewis had, for a sponsor, had picked some lovely archive photos for a gallery, and I went along, had a glass of champagne, watched them talk on stage. There was plenty of banter. Jensen made some comment about Lewis having loyalty card points with the stewards this year, which Lewis smiled at, and it was all quite good-hearted. There's no problems between the drivers in that team. I think what everyone's going to be watching is Lewis's reaction to the situation he's in. Valencia, he kind of kept his head down and got on with things a bit more. But then made some comments about the team as well. So
there's also this whole Red Bull, tenuous link, I think, thrown into the situation.
Yeah, it's difficult to know if there's anything in it, really. I think Lewis's meeting with Christian Horner in the Montreal paddock was...
could be to catch up on football for all we know. I mean,
no, I think it was a conscious decision. He knew what he was doing. He knew that if he went to see the team boss of the rival team in the paddock in front of everyone, that it would get people talking. It was a tactic. There's no doubt about it. Whether he'd actually go there, Nigel Mansell and Jacques Villeneuve has been quoted this week as saying they're very foolish to go. Yeah. They're right. I mean, basically, he's got the perfect setup at McLaren for himself, and I can't see why he'd want to go into Red Bull knowing that Vettel is the man, and why would they want him? Why do they need him?
Yeah. Well, both their drivers are doing pretty well for themselves.
Well, I'd love it to happen, wouldn't you?
Oh, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Great to see.
Vettel versus Hamilton, equal machinery.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, moving down to the other end of the grid, we mentioned last time about Virgin parting ways with Worth Research, and they've now announced that they've gone on board with McLaren, who are going to supply sort of test rigs, simulators, and things like that. I mean, this is, it's fundamental for them. They've got to get this kind of support, haven't they? Because at the moment they look as though they're slightly floundering. HRT have caught them up. Lotus have sort of seemed to be moved ahead a bit. Yeah.
I mean, interestingly, we had the former Renault technical director Pat Simmons came in to see us and recorded one of our podcasts, and he's written a couple of articles for the magazine in the past couple of months. He's working there as a consultant at the moment. He can't have a full-time role because of his ban that's still ongoing in Formula One, but he's been working as a consultant, and really we shouldn't be surprised that Nick Worth is out of it. I mean, Pat made it very clear to us that he wasn't convinced that CFD alone is yet ready to design a Formula One car. So he's gone for a more conventional approach for Virgin, which I think is very, very sensible. A technical tie-in with McLaren also makes sense. It's worked very well for Force India, although Force India, I would say, haven't taken the step forward that they should have done.
But if you look at where the team has got, and from when they came into the sport,
it's a damn sight better than where Virgin are, that's for sure, isn't it?
Exactly,
I think it's a good move on their part, and as I understand it, it's from the suggestions made by Pat, so makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, one of the best minds in the paddock, I think.
Yeah, he is. I mean, as soon as that ban is up, you'd think he'd be hot property, because that era, for me, the era when he was against Ross Brawn at Ferrari, you had Pat Simmons versus Ross Brawn, Renault versus Ferrari, Schumacher versus Alonso, was a fantastic era, because you knew not only were the two best drivers on the grid, but you also had the two best brains on the pit wall going head to head, and I think Pat's still got an awful lot to offer.
Moving on to the ILMC, Peugeot's 1-2 at Imola, 6-hour race, a great result for them. But the Audis finished a lap behind. Were they really that slow? What happened?
Well, it seems that Peugeot, had them beat for pace. They were completely dominant. So, interestingly, this year we've had Sebring, Spa, and this race at Imola. Peugeot have won all of them, albeit the Sebring race was a privateer win, but it was still a Peugeot win. Audi haven't won any of them, apart from the big one, of course, which is Le Mans. Yeah. I think at the end of the year, the truth is that Peugeot would rather have Le Mans than the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, but still, it's a significant scalp for them to win at Imola and get a little bit of revenge for that Le Mans defeat. I think I'm very pleased to see Anthony Davidson score another sports car win. He and Bourdais together looking like a very strong team, so they're going to be the team to beat from here on in.
Yeah, and well, very exciting news, certainly for me, is that we've heard that Porsche is coming back to the top category of sports car racing. I mean, great news. On
Thrilling
top of the World's Endurance Championship. I mean, it's great.
I was wandering around Goodwood last weekend during the Festival of Speed. I think it was on the Thursday it was announced, and checked my emails, and there it was. Great news. I mean, we were all hoping this was going to happen sooner rather than later, and it's now on for 2014. So, and the prospect is of Porsche against Audi as well. It's not a question of Audi now having to bow out. I don't think so anyway. I believe that they're allowed to go head to head, despite
what that company is going to be spending.
Amazing. I think Porsche's history in sports cars, we all know about it. There's no company really like it in sports car terms. For me, Le Mans has never been quite the same without a proper factory Porsche effort.
So we had the RS Spider, but really, if they don't have a car in the top category, you almost feel as they're not representative. Yes, they've got the GT cars, and they used to have the LMP2 car, but really, you really want to see them in that LMP1 category, don't you?
They last won the race in '98, and since then, Porsche's always been there with factory assistance. And you mentioned the LMP2 cars, which were privateer cars, and it was good to see them. But yeah, you're right. To see them race outright for the win is where Porsche should be, with their history and their heritage at Le Mans. So it's just great news. It's going to be exciting times, and we'll see. Presumably, whether it's how hybrid it's going to be. They've had the GT3 hybrid that was almost won Nürburgring 24 hours last year and will start again this year. So you would think that technology will be involved in the new program. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. And whether they go coupe, open top, what have you, whatever. I think it's going to be a great story. Yeah, great story.
Very quickly, you mentioned there you were at the Festival of Speed this weekend. How was it? I mean, that's one of the best events of the summer, isn't it?
Yeah, consistently one of the great events of the summer, and it lived up to all expectations once again. Highlights. There were so many, but I suppose the Indy 500 celebration was very special, and I really enjoyed seeing the Roadsters and the 70s cars and the 80s Indy cars. The whole collection just looked fantastic on the hill, and the celebration in front of the house. So yeah, lived up to all expectations as always.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week, but in the meantime, have a very good British Grand Prix.